Hello, hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. Good evening. How is everyone doing tonight? I hope good. That would be my preferred way of you doing tonight. Is good. Something I immediately need to do, take care of, is my donation. Let's start with that. So let me get that up. Just, of course, I have to get the authenticator up in the end. Good evening, Meat Sauce. How are you doing tonight? So glad you could join us. How are you doing? You doing good? We'll just finish up that donation here real quick. But you can already tell me how you're doing. A little tired?
Rookie second
Dang.
redeem the Emperor shall show us the royal pet Rocco.
Okay, let me finish this up. Let me finish up the donation. The per stream $15 donation to the Trevor Project. As promised. And then I shall...
Thanks you.
Emperor the First just donated $15 to the Trevor Project.
Lovely. Good stuff. So, that's done then. And I think I will follow up on what Rookie has redeemed there. Now, a little introduction here. Because this isn't your normal pet. This isn't your standard pet that I got here, okay? I got this off a merchant. I didn't get a good look at his face. He was wearing like big robes and stuff. Hello, Sergim. What's up, gang? Happy Pride Month. Happy Pride Month to you too. And thank you for acknowledging it, and thank you for joining. Rookie just redeemed that I shall reveal the royal pet Rocco, and I'm about to. But I need to finish my little introduction speech here. So, I got him off a merchant. I don't quite know enough about him. I paid a hefty sum. I'll tell you that. This is a costly thing, but I have a feeling that Rocco might, in the end, become something of an heir, a prodigy. You know? Who's that in the picture in your background? Let me bring this up. That's my ancestor. Right there. That's, I'm leaning in the wrong direction. And my finger is going in the wrong direction. This here is an ancestor of mine. It's the Emperor, of course. There's a story to this. I could tell someday, but not today. Right now, we're here to reveal Rocco. Okay, let me check if Rocco is awake. He's kind of chilling on my desk here. He's got his own little nook in there. Thank you so much, Rakim. Okay, get ready. Here he is. Here he is. Here he is. See? He's a little cutie. He's just chilling. Just having a good time. Yeah. There he is. Let me bring him up. Let me bring him up a little bit closer. There he is. Little Rocco. He is a... You wouldn't believe it, but he is a baby rock golem. He will eventually grow to be about 3 meters tall. Maybe equally as wide. He will be extremely strong. And he will be the leader of our armies. That is what Rocco is. So now we too have a pet cam. He is a worthy pet. Absolutely. I haven't quite figured out what to feed him yet. He doesn't really seem to drink or eat anything, but then again, he's a rock. And all I know about rock people is from the endless story. But yeah, let me put him back into his enclosure in his little pet area, so he can chill there. Junior in military department, welcome. Yeah, but chat upgrade. We now have our own pet cam. You should add and activate pet camera for 5 minutes. You are quite right. You are quite right. I should do that, but he's layered over my countdown, so that's a little bit of a problem. But I think for tonight we're just gonna leave him on. I think tonight, as an introduction to the court, to the most royal court, I think we're just gonna leave him right where he is, with our little pet cam. You know what? That's good. Thank you so much. I'm gonna do it in a moment. I set up a counter that was working, and before stream I had like 10 minutes left, and I checked on it, and I wanted to make sure it's still working, and I played around with it, and it wasn't working, and I didn't get it working again until stream started. So today we still don't have a stream squad counter, but I'm working on it. I almost have it. I know what the problem was. I just couldn't fix it in time. I'm very sorry. But we got Rocco now, so that's something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Zebra could make a new emoji of it. Listen, I'm way ahead of you. I'm way ahead of you. I found the idea so good that I did a bunch of stuff. Maybe the idea isn't that funny, but it got me. Depending on how you find people take to Rocco, I already started talks with an artist on Mastodon who I might commission for a really nice portrait for Rocco. I was kind of expecting a cat or something like that. See, this is the Emperor guarantee. I will always subvert your expectations with what I got. Whatever you think I'm gonna do, just, it's not scuffed enough. I'm always going for the scuffed option. But here he is. Cute little boy. Having a little, having a little look around. Next time we will get us a pet dragon. I already have an idea for that, but you might be possibly pleasantly surprised by my idea for Rocco's pet car. For the dragon. Alright. We are here tonight to check out some TTRPG maps that I made in the past 2.5 or so years for my very own TTRPG campaigns. So I figured we start a little bit chronologically. And first I give you a bit of an overview of the area that the campaign was set in. So we get the overworld overview map. And then we go through different location maps. And I talk a little bit about what I was thinking when I was making them. The things that happened. You can have a Rocco on a turntable. Ooh, I don't know if I can find a tiny enough turntable, but also he might get a little bit dizzy from it. Right now he sits on a bed of Christmas socks, which I think is perfect. But I have some ideas for what we can do. It appears to me, and I'm very happy about that, appears to me that you are taking to Rocco. Are we welcoming Rocco into the Empire? Is he welcome here? Or do I have to get rid of Rocco after the first stream with Rocco present? Or is he now a beloved friend to the channel? Love him, Rocco #1. Very good, thank you. Alrighty. Meat and potatoes of tonight's stream is our... when do we roll dice? Do it for Bruce. With me, you roll the dice every time you join the chat. Every single time. That's when you roll the dice. Will it be good? Will it be not so good? You gotta find out. Meat sauce remains unconvinced. He'll leave it at that. Do you see what I see? Rookie Second coming in with the gift sub for Do It For Bruce. Thank you so much, Rookie Second. I appreciate it. And congratulations to Do It For Bruce for the gift sub. Gifted by our dear Rookie Second. Now, Meat Sauce, I expected you to say a thing. I expected you to say a different thing. And I'm a little bit sad because I thought I knew you better by now. I expected you to say, I remember when those things were being sold commercially and it was very annoying and it was a big flop and no one really cared for it. I will let you know. I'm giving them a comeback. Did you added Rocco to the Zoom view? Not yet. Not yet. I didn't know quite where I should put him here. I have to rearrange things a little bit to fit Rocco in there. But I will. I will get to it. Promise. So tonight we're not gonna necessarily roll dice. I mean, possibly. Rocco is sad. You don't have a monopoly on subverting expectations. Dang, that was a good comeback. You got me there. Alrighty. So this here is the area map of my very first campaign that I ran in D&D. And I do realize that I'm in the way and Rocco is in the way of a little bit of it. But don't worry, we're going to zoom in a little bit so I can move around here. So down in the very edge here, we got Boulder City, which is a city between two mountain ranges. It is possibly where Rocco is from. It is quite possibly his birthplace. We don't know. It's nearly it's Boulder's Gate. So we have the city of Boulder, which is the last big city up here in this region. And then we have a few smaller villages here. We have Tumbleshade, Pentayard, Woodland Port, Raidhorse, Brinkwall up here. Brinkwall is actually a border type fortress city because up here is where the orcs live. They have this city is called Great Hold, and they have a few tribes out in the mountain ranges here beyond the Blacktooth Hills. So over here we have a few other cities, smaller cities, way smaller than Boulder for sure. And Boulder is where this campaign started, where all the bold guys live. Where all the bold guys live. Yeah, there we go. I English good. I English real well. I also read extremely proper. No, you had it right. I just completely botched the heck what you were saying. No. You got it. So, the story of this campaign was basically... The group started in Boulder City, which is behind Rocco there. Right there. And they were basically tasked with going north. Somewhere. No, live. No, but live is correct. Your sentence was right. I just mispronounced it. That's all good. Life. Yeah, but that's where they live. That's still with a V. It's good. You're good. Yeah. It is my life. I live it the way I like. You had it? It's just me being botching. Watch out, there's a dungeon inside that dragon. English is wild for sure. Especially if it's not your first language. It's kind of crazy. Good evening, Sekirus the Proud Viking. So glad you could join us. How are you doing tonight? Life is life. That was on purpose, wasn't it? Because that's not how that song goes. Bonus point to anyone who gets that reference. I get a bonus point! You haven't heard Norwegian. I actually speak a tiny bit of Norwegian. You wanna... I'll tell you my favorite sentence that I learned while I was learning Norwegian a few years ago. Ulven spiser meg. That's my favorite Norwegian sentence. I was also told that the way I speak Norwegian sounds a little bit... Yep. Sounds a little bit like I'm from Bergen. Which makes sense, because I'm German. And that's where I was going all the time back then. Alright. Say it again, I'll judge it. I mean, sure. I don't expect high grades. Ulven spiser meg.
The Empire thanks you.
Thank you so much, Rookie Second, for the $5 support to the Trevor Project. I appreciate it. We are $40 to our $175 goal, and I think we're going to reach that by end of month. Definitely. Definitely in the cards. We can do it. Now, where's the judgment, Sekirus? No, it sounds like a Swedish person moved to Norway and trying to speak Norwegian. I'll take it. That's fair enough. That's good enough for me. All right, let's talk a little bit more about this map, yeah? So the party was kind of led to the idea of needing to go north because suddenly the undead... Oh, good evening, Rat, by the way. How are you doing tonight? I see you found the pet Rocco gif. And I don't know if you've seen Rocco yet, so... Did you already do the squats? Yeah, I did. I did. What, did you not watch? Did you not listen? See, everyone's petting Rocco. I think that's my sign. I need to go pet Rocco now. Now that everyone is doing it. You forgot then? Well, good stuff, dude. Okay, do I need to pet myself now as well? Is that how it goes? Very good. I'm very glad that you're taking to Rocco so well. That makes me very happy. Though, Meat Sauce, I still want to hear your reservations. I want to hear what you could possibly say against our little baby stone golem. I want to know. Where's the pet Rookie emote? That's true. That's true. Rookie, I think we might need that. I think every mod should get a pet emote of their own. So hit me up on Discord, send me a picture if you're a mod in this channel. I'll hook you up. It doesn't have to be a picture of you personally, just your avatar or something. And then I'll hook you up with a pet emote of yourself. I should get a pet emote. I mean, you're making a good case for yourself. I should get my own pet name since I came up with the idea. Sure, Sekirus, what pet name you want? I know I'm being exclusive and not inclusive, but honestly, I was expecting a fluffy thing and not a rock. Listen here. I was told by the merchant that Rocco will grow a luscious head of hair. He has a potion that I can buy from him that will grow a luscious head of hair on Rocco. Would that help? Would that help? Meat Sauce. Would that make it better? Because I'm willing to go find that merchant, buy that potion, and try it out. I mean, he said it was like only 1,000 gold pieces or something. That's very affordable, I think. I can just raid the treasury. Mint some more coins. Pay for it. Let me know what you think. Alright. Back to our map. I love that Rocco is stealing the show here. That's a good sign in my mind. That's a very good sign. Yeah. So I think this throws into focus that we can't always trust merchants. I would try it. I would absolutely try it. All right, so let me show you the very first battle map. I mean, they did a little bit of battling there, but let me show the very first battle map I did with Dungeon Draft, and it was with the in-app assets basically. Oh wait, first let me show you this. So the area that we just saw is basically up here. Only this area is what we just saw. So this is part of my whole world. This is just the northern, one of the northeastern continents. Pet Rocco steals the show. Absolutely. And I love it. I'm here for it. I live for it. But we're still gonna talk about D&D maps. Dang it. So up here, this is the area where the campaign took place. Just this little area. To get you an idea. And this is still only a section of the whole world map that I got going for my thing. Whoops, I didn't want to switch to this. Now let me try and find the very scuffed looking first thing that I did. Well, first of all, here's the city. And the city was made with... How did you make the map? I made the map with... map leak screenshot. Now we're gonna get to it. Don't worry about it. Not the scuffed looking thing you did. So, wait. Dang it. I'm winging this. Okay. So, both this map and this map were made with a app called Wonder Draft. And that is a one-time purchase through Humble Bundle. And it's from the same guy who made the map called, the map maker called Dungeon Draft. It was made with love. Rocco mental support. Yes. And the assets, well, I scrounged them together. There's a website called Cartography Assets. They have a bunch of free ones, but I bought a few as well. So it's really easy and quick to build maps with that. And you can get really lost in the details and stuff. So it's a fun, very, very solid system. Rocco jump scare. Alright. Let us venture on here. So these were the overworld maps. Now let me see if I can't find the very first thing that I built. There it is. So this is with if Rocco gets told to attack. I love it. I'm so happy. This is fantastic. So this is all with the assets that come bundled with Dungeon Draft. So it's two applications. It's Wonder Draft and it's Dungeon Draft. And these maps, which I'm showing right now, these are made with Dungeon Draft. The level of creativity in combining these emotes is absolutely incredible. I love it. Good stuff. Very good. Okay, so this here is the Head and Shepherd Inn. And now the assets are, let's say, serviceable. They're very stylized, obviously. It's a little bit hard to distinguish things because at this point, I didn't know how to do shadows properly. Or even a little bit better, Rocco only stream. I mean, we could do a 24/7 live cam like Rookie suggested. I can just leave that up all day, every day. Yes. We might do it and just have a lo-fi run in the background. But I think I need an extra computer for that, where I can just run that all day, every day. I have to figure the logistics out of it. Maybe we can do that. Anyway, so this inn has... And that's important. In my maps, why is there a guy next to Rocco? Can we remove him? He's getting in the way of the stream. I think that is also something you should be able to redeem. Like Rocco only mode for 5 minutes or something, or 4 minutes. Okay. Or Rocco gone for the haters. That is true. That is a good idea. Then Meat Sauce can just redeem no Rocco for the stream. For 5 minutes. Block Rocco for 5 minutes. And then it can be a war between the people that want Rocco and the ones that don't want Rocco. Make it insanely expensive. I need to start writing down these ideas. Give me a second. Okay, so what do we have? We have a Rocco only mode for 5 minutes. Does that mean I'm muted as well? Or is it just visual? Then we have a no Rocco mode for 5 minutes. Just visual? Alright. Only Rocco may speak. Would be cool if... No. Look at that. He has a mouth. See? Right there. Hello, everyone. But animated. He's smoking cigarettes. Now, this is a child-friendly area. Where if you talk, it opens. I mean, okay, I'll write that down as a thing I can try and figure out. I have an idea on how to do that. Rocco mouth animation. I have an idea on how that might work. I have an idea on how I could make that happen. But I'll give me that will take a while. That will take a while for sure. So what else did we have? We had Rocco only mode. We had no Rocco mode. But Rookie had another idea earlier for Rocco redemption. Hide Rocco. Become a Rocco VTuber. Rocco girlfriend. That's a community challenge. That's a community challenge. We find Rocco a girlfriend. Or let's say we find Rocco a betrothed. Why a virtual girlfriend? Rocco AI girlfriend. A technomancer Rockina. Okay.
R4T_123 redeem the Emperor shall show us the royal pet Rocco.
No AI. Girlfriend, waifu. Okay. So I also... Okay, we gotta find Rocco. Here's Rocco, by the way. He's all nice, but he's not in focus. Come on, get in focus. Rocco. There we go. He's the star of the show. He's a little bit confused about what's going on here, but you know, he's trying his best to kind of keep up with what's going on in chat. Hey Rocco, can you read chat? Look over there. That's chat. They're talking about you, buddy. Yeah, really. Yeah, look, they're talking about you. They're petting you. That's crazy, isn't that? Rocco can't believe his eyes. See, he was sold to me by a merchant, but the merchant said he rescued Rocco from a illegal golem farm. Like, they were breeding golems, stone golems illegally. I suddenly got the urge to hit Rocco. Dude, that's nearly an insta-ban. That's nearly an insta-ban. Careful here. No one hits Rocco. Rocco comes from a bad place. We have rescued Rocco. We're gonna be good to Rocco. Right? I will assassinate Rocco. You might have to get through the entire empire first. Alright. I noticed something with you, Securus. I noticed something with you. Things tend to get violent very quickly. What's Rocco's favorite kind of music? Rock? Or ska? I don't know. He hasn't told me yet. It's probably lo-fi music. I'm a Viking. Very shocked. Because I thought you were a little bit more enlightened than that. But hey. Wow, assuming he's into rock because he rock. How reductive. Yeah, I'm sorry. I agree. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I will do better in the future. I agree. Now, shall we get back to the map discussion and talk about the map that has been on the screen for a while? Or do we stay with Rocco? I mean, he's there. He's chilling. He's hearing us. He's sitting on his Christmas socks. What about Rocco? Stay with Rocco. I have replaced myself. I didn't think that was possible, but here we go. I have replaced myself. I have created something that is more interesting than me, and it's a rock. Mind you, a fantastic rock. Hashtag Rocco love. Hashtag stand with Rocco. He's more than a rock. Yes, he's a rock golem. We need a Rocco emote. Oh, chat, would you please educate Pixel Art Dragon on the breadth and wealth of Rocco emotes I have prepared already in anticipation. We got you. We got you, Pixel Art Dragon. We got you. Rocco is right there with us. Oh, Mitzos, I'm so sorry. I will not shoot you though. But you must admit. You must admit. Okay, for you, Mitzos, I'm gonna bring up this community redemption that you can do to hide Rocco, and no Rocco for 4 minutes. I'll set that up for you, okay? Right now. You deserve it. You have been a good supporter of this channel. You shall have it. Let me set that up for you. I don't want you to be in pain. But you must admit, it's working way better than I expected. If you hide Rocco, you should also be timed out for the duration of Rocco's exile. Oh my god, no, that's too harsh. But if you call for assassinations of Rocco, you will be. Petting Rocco is better than petting the Emperor. Okay. Alright. I'll remember that. I need a pop-up thing which I can show with a voice line where it's like the Emperor will remember that. Less hairy. For now, I will buy the serum. I will buy the hair growth serum and we'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, I'm nearly set up. The amount to hide Rocco is equal to showing Rocco. Why didn't that work? Why did that not work? Okay, it's up. Some meat sauce. If you do feel like it, you may now redeem the Emperor shell. Give Rocco some quiet time. And that hides him. Though I made a mistake, I'm just realizing. The icon is not correct. But there we go, now it's fixed. You need to add Rocco to the Discord. It should sync automatically. Rocco's memory is etched in stone. The Discord should sync it over. Let me check. Maybe I need to do that manually. Server settings, emoji, integrations, Twitch integration. Last synced today, just now. So check the Twitch, check the Discord again. The server should... Let me see. They're not animated though, because we don't have that many animated slots on the server, but they're in there. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. But the non-animated versions are in there now. So, all right, let's get back to the map, shall we? Before Mitos unfollows, unsubscribes, leaves the Discord.
The proud Viking redeemed the Emperor shall show us the royal pet Rocco.
So much for that idea. Well, let's bring Rocco to the forefront again. Let me wake him up. Let me bring him here. Come on, Rocco. Come on, don't be shy. Come on. Yeah, go up there. Up. Yeah. No, don't look at me like that. They want to see you. Yes. Yes, they want. Come on. Yeah, so you're nearly there. I think he's a little bit shy now. He's got a little bit of performance anxiety, it looks like. Maybe if you say something nice, maybe he'll be a little bit less worried about coming in here. Best you add a shop item if someone redeems it to hide Pet Rocco, that you can override it. But it will cost double as to hide it. Rocco, I will find you a girlfriend. There he is. He's chilling. He's vibing with the music. Rocco got the moves to find a girlfriend. Let's go, Rocco. Damn, Rocco, maybe I'll be your girlfriend. Oh, man. Fantastic. Alrighty. Good one. Come on, let's try the map. Please. Please. This was a community challenge redemption. Change stream category to Rocco. More Rocco. I need to drink something. You guys are... You find people are forgetting to hydrate and stuff. It's just... Rocco this, Rocco that. Rocco is more important. Rocco is love. Rocco is life. Rocco is more important. Is true. But he's right there. He's having a good little relaxing and chill. He's hanging with us. Rocco is a lifestyle. Rocco Coconut. That would be the first flavored energy drink that Rocco releases once his level of fame has surpassed mine. That's the first one. The first. Rocco Zaft. Why do you ask the first? Did I say? Well, we'll have to find him an alliance. A good match to breed the courtiers. There will be more. Why would you release an energy drink line with just one coconut flavor? Like, of course there will be more flavors than just coconut. Wouldn't you think? I think so. Seems like a Rocco thing to do. Yeah. You can just tell. You can just tell by the intelligent look in his eyes. I have a volunteer rock for Rocco's GF. Is this the point where I need to get like a postbox address so you guys can send Rocco GFs? I have a brick for a Rocco GF. She's called Steinhard Stonehard. Not bad. Not bad. You can send pictures. You can send pictures on Discord. You're all missing out on something. Call it Rocco Coconut. Like a play on Rococo? Wouldn't it be Rococo minus nut then? Or Rocco Co nut? Or it's just Rococo nut because the cocoa nut, Rococo nut. But I'm seeing Meat Sauce is getting in there slowly. You're coming. You're warming up to Rocco. I can see it. I can feel it. You're getting around to him. I mean, look at those eyes. How could you not? How could you not love those eyes? This just... Let Rocco embrace you. I think we're getting into the cult level now. Slowly getting to the cult situation there. All right. Rocco needs a little bit of peace and quiet. He needs a little bit of sleep. Many banned words. I pray to Rocco every night. All right. Okay, Rocco. Okay. Let's get you to sleep a little bit. Let's get you a little bit cozy there. And let's talk about this lovely map that I made nearly 3 years ago. Let me check how old is this map actually. Dang, that can't be right. It says only a year ago, but I think it's older. Where did Rocco go? Bring Rocco back. I went to set up a load of laundry and Rocco's gone. Stoning now has a different meaning. Okay, alright. Okay, fine. Fine, there he is. He's all good. Don't worry, Rocco's right there. He's okay. You don't need to have an existential crisis. Alright, I'll pet him a little bit. See? Poor Rocco. It's all good. It's all good. He's right there. Meat Sauce, you should be glad it isn't an actual cat or something, because look at the amount of interaction that chat demands of me here. I think Rocco is barely keeping up. Onlyrocks.com. Is that a website? I want to know if that is an actual website now. That is an actual website, I will tell you. It's not properly loading on my Firefox, which is a little bit scary, but you know. Rocco Only Rocks. We're not gonna do an Only Rocks for Rocco. Also, I'm only now realizing what that reference is, and me going to onlyrocks.com is the risky click of the day for sure. The rock can only keep you warm at night after it's been in the fire for a while. Please? Yeah. So much rock. I mean, rock out with your... I'm not completing that sentence. Rock out with your clock out? With your frock out? With your knockout? With your book out? Sure, clock. I feel some Rocco fan art coming, and I feel that the not safe for work rule on the server, on the Discord server, will first time come into effect, that we have to use it. Rocky, I only now realize what I almost said. Yeah. Let's not get banned over Rocco joining the Empire. How about that? Plus, Rocco is very young. Let's think of him. Let's remember that. He's impressionable. He might look very hard on the outside. Getting banned for Rocco is a price worth paid. Dang. Alright, now, map. I will now talk about the map. Very hard on the outside. I know how that sounded, but that's not what I meant, and you know full well that that's not what I meant. You know full well. Alright, so something about my building type maps is that I always like to put in a lavatory and maybe even a bathroom. Because I feel like if it's a dwelling of any sort, then, you know, whatever dwells there probably needs to relieve itself at some point. Something I definitely didn't get right on this map is scales. Scales are all over the place on this one. Like, look at this weapon rack. Look at how extremely crazy large this weapon rack is. And then over here, this is like a small, albeit small, beer casket. And a chair and stuff. Like, this is humongous. So we got a bit of a bathroom situation there. There are some toilets with ladle water to, you know. We got a side table, a kitchen, the larger area of where the people could sit around. And this has a second story too. So this is the upper story, which you can reach by the stairs, where there are just a bunch of rooms up here that you can rent. There's like a common area where you can sit and hang out. Boring, more Rocco. Rocco is right there. See, that's the beauty of the magic of modern internet. You can split your attentions. If you're feeling more Rocco, then just look at Rocco down there. I don't know how to point toward Rocco. Down there. Not enough Rocco, I want more. Hey, listen now. There's no more Rocco to be had. That's all there is. For now. We'll see. Alright, and we got here, basically this is the area where the owners of the inn live. Now, what happened was, obviously, being my first campaign that I ran in many, many years, this is where the party had to meet, of course. They met a few other people and people trying to break into their rooms, which they took care of, and then they found some clues about some undead stuff happening. And this is where my first map that I'm pretty proud of, actually, comes in, which I built with bought assets. So this, again, this is all inside what Dungeon Draft is shipped with, except for these bottles up there. Like, these are from a different asset set, but all the other things we see, I think, are pretty much the standard that Dungeon Draft comes with. It's serviceable. It's not great, but it's serviceable. So next is Grey Lane 16. It's not super good, honestly, because I still hadn't figured out how to do shadows properly. But basically, we got a little house in the city next to Rocco. Swear I just need to throw in like a picture of Rocco on the map thing. But there is no Rocco map, so we gotta keep up with Boulder, right? Now this map here has a few clues in it. And how many layers do you work with when you play with players? How many layers do I work with when I play with players? Can you elaborate a little bit on what you mean with that question? Like, in most virtual tabletops, there's 4 layers. You have the map layer. Yeah, okay. So in the virtual tabletop I'm using, which is called Roll20, you have 4 layers basically. You have the map layer, the lighting layer, where you define like walls and stuff. Trolls are like onion, they have layers. Are you calling yourself a troll, Securus? Then you have the GM layer, which is all the things that I as a dungeon master can see, but not the players. And then you have the token layer, which is all the things on the map basically. Ogre? Ogres are like onions, they have layers. You don't have to call me a troll. I wouldn't. I asked you if you call yourself a troll. That's a different question. Alright, so again, this was like my very first attempt at dungeon mastering in many, many years. So my suspicion was, or my expectation was, that the party would enter this and be like, okay, we know something bad is happening here. They see the corpse there in the hallway. Is it one flat surface and you move nothing with it? Objects, furniture? Yeah, basically. I built, like, the map as we are seeing it here right now is just in a image viewing program. This is also something I've improved overall a little bit. I thought this was family friendly. Fair enough. It suddenly did get very family unfriendly. So, I have improved on this a little bit. So I have these items as assets as well, so I can put them on the tabletop, on the virtual tabletop as well, so they could move them around. I could do that. But it would be a lot of work to do that. So usually I just have the map as it is, and if they're like, okay, I would like to move this cupboard over to the side, then I would just paint it in, basically. You know? A little bit of suspension of disbelief we need. Now, I expected the party to come to this house, go into this area in the beginning here, and then just maybe check out this door or this door, because they are right at the beginning of the room, right? So they would have found some clues. Maybe they find that, oh, okay, so this is a regular living room, but there are weapon racks. Who keeps weapon racks in a regular living room? Yeah, and the fire is still lit. Someone is here. Someone was recently here. And there are some toys and stuff. So there might be children here. And this is the family bedroom. This is where the parents sleep. And then they go into this other room, yeah? And they find like destroyed furniture. And even more weapon racks. And blood. And some weird runes in the blood. And the family dead on the bed. So what happened here? That's how I figured that would go. In reality, the party just ignored the first 2 doors entirely, went straight up to here, saw what happened there, saw that, I explained it, like, this looks like a makeshift barricade that was broken through, and someone was killed here, and you can see, like, bloody fingerprints all over the place, and there are bloody footprints leaving a way up through the corridor. And I figured, okay, if they don't go in here or in here, they're definitely going to go check this out, because there was a barricade built and there's a door and something came out of that. We got to check that room out. That's what I figured. But they didn't do that. If they had, they would have gone in here and they would have seen more bloody footprints, and they would have gone in here and found another dead guard with a note that would have told them a little bit of information. And they would have found places where someone could have been chained up and a open arm, a ripped off arm and whatnot. Nope. They didn't do that. They just went straight ahead into this little hallway situation here. And basically in this room there were zombies, in this room, in this room, and in this room. In all these rooms here were zombies. So immediately No, they wouldn't find Rocco in any of those. Rocco wasn't... I think Rocco wasn't born then. I think Rocco wasn't yet born. Rocco is a very young baby. He's a very, very young rock golem. So, the group got caught in this room. Because zombies were coming from here, from there, and from there. That was a very tight spot for like a level 1 or 2 party to be in. Not ideal. Not ideal, I tell you. But we had a very memorable moment in there. Rocco was born at the beginning of time. Maybe he was even there before that. I was told Rocco is very young for his kind. That's what I was told. I was told he's going to grow a lot more eventually. So they got caught in here having to fight a bunch of zombies. One of them picked up like a ripped off zombie arm and threw it at one of the zombies with a crit and punctured through the eye into the brain and killed it. That was a very memorable moment. He's an elder god a couple of bajillion years is young. Maybe it's a reincarnation of that. I don't know. I don't know how rock golems work. I'm just the emperor. I know imps. I don't know rocks or rock golems. So I'm just figuring that's probably, hopefully, you know, good. Yeah, so they managed to survive that. They got in here and they saw this big ritual room where things were happening and chanting was happening. And in this room, a bunch of cultists had barricaded themselves in. So they cleared them out and cleared basically the dungeon. And then they tried to get back to the city. And they wound up at the city gate. Which is this right here. Are there any questions about Grey Lane 16, the house that I showed? Any at all? Because I feel like Rocco stole the show. It wasn't a good idea to have Rocco revealed today. I wanted to talk maps. But here we go. It's all Rocco. Rocco or bust. So, this here is the front gate, or one of the gates. It's the east gate of the city, through which they would have to go to come back in. And at the gate, there's a barricade set up. And people are being held up and questioned and looked at. And all these cards, they're just standing around here. But they were packed with creatures and people trying to get into the city. There were some dwarves up on this one. And some regular people all around here. But they were expecting. The guard were inspecting this. Over here we had some baddies waiting in the wings. And the party came here. And the cool thing was, and I didn't really account for that either, the party spent like nearly half a session trying to figure out how to get through the gate. Because they found some stuff in that house. And they didn't want anyone to take it from them. Like they found a book from the cultists and stuff, which clearly had something going on. And they didn't want any of that found. Because they were thinking, whatever the guard here is searching for, it might be what they took from that house. So they spent an amazing amount of time trying to figure out how to get through this gate. The guard in reality, however, was only screening for undead. Because the undead were getting closer and more unruly. They didn't know why or how, but that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to prevent anyone from coming in carrying an infected relative or something. So they wouldn't even have cared about any of what the party was carrying around. But they made so many big plans on how to get through here. It was very fun. I enjoyed that greatly. And then out of this wagon came some zombies and ghouls and all that kind of stuff. And we had a big battle here. And more undead came from all directions, swarming toward the gate. And the dwarves over here started exploding stuff. And the cannons on the walls started shooting. And it was just a big thing. One of the group was kidnapped, like knocked out and taken into the cart. And they barely rescued her. All that stuff. But here I started... Well, I didn't really start, honestly. These trees here came with shadows. I still had no idea how to do shadows properly. So it all looks a little bit too flat. It's not a bad map. But it's all kind of flat still. I got better over time. These are my very first things. So let's see, what else do we have? Okay, I give you a choice now, chat. You want to see a shop? If so, I have 3 options. Or do you want to see the city guard hall for this city? I think we're going to move on out of the city soon. Check out some other things. City guard hall. That has 2 levels to it. And the party never saw the second level. Sadly. But it's also a good story, kind of. So this is the second level, and we're starting with the first level. So this here is the city guard hall. You have the big roads out here on the sides where people can come in, and it's a little bit elevated on this stony outcrop there, so this goes up a little bit. At this point, I still hadn't figured out how to do shadows properly. But that's fine. I will eventually. So you come in here. Then you have the entrance place where you have some reception who will talk to you with a bunch of papers sitting around and some wanted posters laying out for God knows who. A bell to ring, you know. You have some waiting benches, some of them with shackles. Down here you have the pre-screening prison room, basically, where it's like a holding area with one guard sitting there. Then you have the guard, well, let's say, pause room. I don't know, lunch room. You have a little bit of a barracks here. These are double beds where you can sleep in. Wait for guard duty. Here it goes down into the second level. Then up here you have the basically the main room where all the officers and the detectives sit, with chairs where they can shackle people to as well. You have the office of the city guard captain there. You might notice a distinct lack of lavatories in this one, so the city guard will, you know, have to find different ways of dealing with that. Here's a little bit of an armory at the edge here. And the party only went in here, asked a few questions, talked a while with the city guard captain, all that kind of stuff, and didn't really bite on some of the hints that I was dropping. And they also dropped off some people they caught at some point, I think, but they never went back to question them, which is a shame, because if they had, they would have seen the second level here, the cellar of the city guard hall. So here you come down the spiral staircase. There's some, you know, storage stuff with some spider webs. You got a winch to open this gate here. Then you have more holding areas, and you have these yellow and this red carpet line basically that shows you where you need to go, depending on where you want to bring people. Then you have another guard room, waiting room with a few beds and some armory things. And they have a view down here into this area, which is basically a big shower situation where they force everyone to get a good scrub in before they be put into the cells, because they don't want to deal with the smell. I've played professional Warhammer campaigns that didn't have maps of this quality, just saying. Well, thank you, I appreciate that. To be fair, now all the assets that we're looking at, like everything, all the barrels and all these kind of things, this is by a group called Forgotten Adventures. So you can buy these and then use them with Dungeon Draft to put it all together. But yeah, that's the creative bit, basically. Me coming up with the layouts, what's happening there, putting it all into place. And as I said, they get even a little bit better, I think, later down the road. Not at this point, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That's a great compliment. I absolutely take it. So over here we got a little bit more, and this is like a little, I would say, it's like a seminar room with more beds as well. And this is more for the magically inclined, and like a teaching room on, you know, certain things. And they would have talked to a very powerful druid down here if they had gone down that way. Then back here we get to the cells. Here are the lavatories. So the guard do have actually, they do have that. And these are also for the prisoners. I'm not quite sure if they have to share with the guard or not. So the yellow line here is for short-term confinement. Someone is drunk, needs to sleep it off, goes into the yellow cells. There's one that's a little bit more spacious, hasn't been used in a while. This is all covered in spiderwebs and cobwebs. But it's very, very simple, everything. It's just a bed of straw. Some of them has a bench. And that's good. Now for long-term residents, you follow the red line. You go through this little utility closet type thing with a little fountain, a well. Because I figure they need some source of clear water, fresh water. And if we have all this running, which is controlled from here, might as well have a well to get some drinking water and store it and all that stuff. And you have a few cells back on the red line. So these are still the standard-ish cells, but they are, you know, they're okay. But on each end here, on this end, and over on this end, you have the cells for the nobles, for the rich people. This is for the betters among them. You might also notice some things like this, because I hadn't figured out how to properly align things yet, so sometimes it looks a little bit odd. But then again, it's just a prison. It doesn't need to look perfect or anything. But definitely a two-class society down here. This guy, if you go into this cell, you can even have people over. You know, discuss with your attorney, all these kind of things. So the thing is, the party brought someone to be confined in here who would be the vector of infestation and infection. They just never learned that. And when they left the city, without figuring this out, the whole city fell to the undead. It didn't take too long. Like, it took a few days after the party left the city, it was completely consumed by the undead. And it all started in this. They could have prevented it. If they only had gone down here, they would have witnessed the transformation. They would have been able to slay the thing. That was a bad idea, yeah. I mean, generally, I think if I, as a dungeon master, don't properly convey the importance or even the capability and possibility of things, you know, then it's on me more so than on the party, obviously. Another thing I want to point out on the map making quality, because that has also improved over time, is look at this. Look at this janky corner here. This is just bad. Or how it's just cut off here. I figured things out. You'll see later on some more up-to-date maps. But this is where I started. And I think I started on a pretty decent level. I don't even know how I came up with this shower thing. I just kind of felt like, what do I do with this space? What do they do in a prison? Or what do they want to do in a prison? Maybe clean the prisoners at some point, you know? Alright. Do we want to look at a shop in the city, or do we move out of the city to a different place? Chat gets to decide. Oh, I have a good one. I have a good one where we could go. But I'll leave chat the option to at least possibly say something. Alright. I'll just take your silence as do whatever you want, Emperor. You always right. You have our best interests at heart. Clearly I do. I mean, clearly. So something I have started doing pretty early in my campaigns is called the Woven Dream. Scheduling issues, as many of you might know in TTRPGs or trying to do anything with friends, are often the biggest issue. So if someone can't make it, then often it comes down to, okay, do we just skip? Do we just not do anything? And I figured that's a bad idea. That's kind of sad. So instead, what I came up with was what I call the Woven Dream, where the characters in the campaign, due to their connectedness, eventually start being able to walk into each other's dreams. And the idea behind it is basically that we can dip into the characters' background stories. We can go to places that are far away from the campaign setting, like the hometown of someone, revisit some extra important events in their lives. So it's more of a show don't tell for them. And the characters themselves get a lot of leeway and decision-making room in these dream sessions because it's a dream. Obviously, if they feel like, okay, I can float up to the ceiling, you can do it. Because it's a dream. But it has a twist. You don't know exactly what things happening in the dream will translate into the real world. Because sometimes it does. Sometimes things that happen in the dream translate into the real world. So this here was one of the very first dream sessions that I set up. And it's called the Fowlhead Tavern, which is a place one of the characters frequented a lot. But it looked a little bit different. That's also the fun thing about the dream sessions, because I can make something a little bit more fantastic, you know? It doesn't need to make a lot of sense, right? That's a very cool idea. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think so too. So this here on the edges, you can barely see it. This is floating out in space, basically. But here in the center, in the real world, the character knew, here is just a fireplace where you can sit around and eat grilled meats off of the grates and stuff. But in this dream version, you had these portals, these portholes, and you could see down into the universe. And it kept scrolling by, basically. It just kept going. And I don't know. It was fun to make that. It was very fun to make that. And here we can see a little bit of improvement. There are shadows now. I have started working with shadows, sort of. Still very tentatively, not super good, not super amazing, but starting. See, even some of the mugs have shadows to give some more plasticity and some more depth to the map here. So it's basically a tavern with a few sculptures on the edges, a lot of food, a little stage here with the golden statue and some performers. And I had this little wall here, which I didn't set up correctly because I wanted to hide an NPC here that one of them knew. But I didn't do that properly, so the NPC was visible the whole session. And midway through, I was like, okay, now comes the reveal. Now I reveal this NPC that they know. And the character that knows the NPC was like, yeah, they've been there the whole time. That's not a surprise. Dang. But we have a little more stuff to it. We have a little fireplace here. A little kitchen. You know, nothing too fancy. Nothing too interesting. But see what I did? The doors, they have now, I don't know what they're called. Joists? What are door frames called? Are they called door frames? But it's not just the wall doesn't just cut off randomly. Door posts? I think it's door frame, but yeah, door posts maybe. Anyway, the wall doesn't just cut off anymore. I put some pillars over the weird edges on the walls, you know, so the connections look a little bit better. I'm learning. I'm growing. You can see it happening throughout my maps here. So the fun thing about this session was they didn't know at this point too much about the whole dream thing. So they were trying to figure some things out. They had some questions. And what they met was certain people that they knew for sure were dead. They knew for sure that some of the people they met in here were dead. So they weren't sure if they were dreaming the dead people, if they were meeting the dead people, if everyone here was a dead person. Because some people they didn't know were dead or alive because they had never met them before. So these two characters hatched a plan of trying to figure out. Chat, can you guess how they would try to figure out if these people that they were talking to were all dead? Or just some of them? Can you guess? Yep. They wanted to kill one of them. To see if they're just talking to all dead people. Or if some of these are actually alive. And the worst thing about the worst and best thing about this was both characters outside the stream session, and the players too, are super sweet people. Absolutely, you know? Are you player motorhobos? No, that is the thing. They aren't. They weren't. But in this session, in this one session, because they were thinking, oh, this is a dream, we can do whatever, they absolutely dropped. They absolutely went for it. And the thing is, they started talking about who they should kill. They made deliberations. So there was a restaurant reviewer sitting here. There was a philosophy student sitting here with a philosophy professor asleep. And there were a few people, other people sitting around. And they basically came down to killing the restaurant reviewer or the philosophy student. And their reasoning was basically, well, the restaurant reviewer is a horrible person. It wouldn't matter if they died. Like, no one needs restaurant reviewers. Oh, clearly the philosophy student, hands down. That's what they came down to as well. But do you know what their reasoning was? They were like, what's he gonna do with philosophy? He has nothing to live for. He can die. This session was... I still, like, this is branded into my brain. I will never forget this session. And it was for me also the moment where it cemented for me, yes, dream sessions are a good idea. They're not always this crazy in terms of suddenly the players discussing who they could most ethically kill. Just in case it does lead to a murder, you know. Like, who can we kill? Where would be the restaurant? Restaurant reviewers that give honest reviews on restaurants are useful to society. Yeah, so that... I mean, she was kind of being rude. So, there was this level to it, you know? There was this level of rudeness to it. I'm gonna try something, and let's see what chat does. Let's give our boy a little rest here. Rocco can have a little bit of sleep. Let's see if the screeching starts again. So that was one of the very first dreams. Now let me check through if there's something else I want to definitely show off. Oh yeah, one of the first dungeons they went into. One of the first dungeons I even made. On top of it. So this here is an actual dungeon I made. Sekiro's waiting in the sidelines. Where's Rocco? You can redeem it. I will put him back up. Hashtag bring Rocco back. Alright, calm down now. Redeem, show Rocco, and I'll show him. I'll turn it on. So, this here is a goblin cave. And the party started here. One of their number, you can't afford it. Well, then, no, you have to wait. If you stick around, you have to wait. Play by the rules.
Pixel Art Dragon redeemed the Emperor shall show us the royal pet Rocco.
Alright, Pixel Art Dragon got you. Alright, okay, fine. There he is. There he is. See? Safe and sound. All good, little Rocco. I'm such a meanie. What can I say? What can I say? You have to work with scarcity. If you want something to be popular, you need to work with scarcity. Can't just have it forever. So, the party lost one of their number. They were kidnapped. Incidentally, it's the same character that was kidnapped at the gate as well. I want a newspaper with today's date to prove that's not an old recording. I would show you my phone screen with today's date, but that would possibly dox me. There's too much information on that. So I can't do that. You have to trust me. Oh wait, I can do something. You know for sure that I'm an actual recording, not an old recording, because I'm reacting to you, right? Yeah? So I'm gonna write on this on this empty note paper here that has some pre-printed stuff on it. I'll draw a circle on it, okay? You can watch me draw the circle here. Like very bad. Okay, it's not going to be a circle, but something similar. Okay, you can see it happening here. All right? Okay? So I just drew this right here. You can see it. And now I'm just going to show it over there. Okay? It's live. Rocco background. Well, I might actually have you for that eventually. Are we good? Is it proof enough that Rocco is alive and well? That this is not an old recording? I mean, you can see him breathe. All right. No? Well, that's all the proof you're gonna get. So the party went in here trying to find their fellow person who was then caged in here, but there are some traps down there. Some hidden spike traps and a little blade trap that kind of comes up. Give Rocco a smoosh. Fine. Come here, Rocco. Come here. Mwah. There. Good? Gives an XP boost for Rocco. If I leave now, I can retain some of my sanity, so peace to you all and goodbye. Meat sauce! I'm back to the maps. Believe. But thank you so much for joining. Hope you have a good one. We'll talk on Discord. I want to know what's going on with you. I'm so sad. Everyone is taking to him. Don't leave Meat Sauce alone now. He might literally never come back if we keep doing this. We need to be very careful here. We need to, you know, everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. So, the party, this time, not doing what I expected them to do. I expected them to ignore the first door, or just listen to it, and figure out, okay, this is a dangerous door. Like, there's one little light that they could have peeked through. And this is basically like the whole kobold barracks. I said goblins earlier, I meant kobolds, I'm sorry. So the whole kobold barracks was filled with them. Filled with them. Absolutely filled with them. And there were like 20 or so of those creatures. Pixlar Dragon clipped smooshing him. It's not goblins. It's goblins and it was kobolds. So they kind of went in here and just started fighting them. They started like a fight against 20 or so goblins, kobolds. Why can't... Damn it! You got me. They surprisingly survived that. They checked out all this old stuff and they figured, okay, this doesn't look like it was made by kobolds, and it's all kind of strewn around and thrown around, so this is not necessarily kobold stuff. They figured that out. Then they went deeper, and they found their mate here, rescued them. But they were very worse for the wear. Then they went back and tried to get through here. You can see these little rock lines. Those were hiding trap triggers, basically. Like this here was an exploding barrel. This one is nothing. This one is nothing. You got to throw in some decoys there. Then they would have come through here, and they did. They could see some broken triggers for a trap. Something died here before them. And they got in here and they found this glowing pentagram with some crystals, and one crystal was laying on the side. And these lightning barriers around them. They could see through here. They could see a little bit. Some things were there. Not much that they could see. But they saw a lot of silver in those chests here. Back there. That's a hexagram, not a pentagram. Plot twist, it's made by Emperor that's secretly controlled by Rocco. That is a hexagram, not a pentagram. That is probably correct. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edges, yeah. Yeah, get it right, dude. Sorry. Thank you. The hexagram basically, there was one more crystal somewhere. I don't quite remember. I think in this one there's another crystal. But, yeah. So they played around with that a little bit. They managed to open these. And they looked over here into this abyssal hole. And gargoyles started coming at them. And they stole some coins here. And they figured out that they could bring up this barrier again to block out the gargoyles, which was good because the gargoyles would absolutely have killed them. They were not prepared for that whatsoever. And this was kind of like a lore dump thing where they could have learned a little bit about an old bloodline of dwarves, which had one of the magi of their order, of their clan, down here conducting experiments long ago. Then they went back and went deeper into the kobold hideout, finding the next trap. And there were like some weird liquids in these barrels. And then they had these glowing eyes. And they figured, okay, if they pour the liquid from the barrels over the eyes of the gargoyles, nothing happens. So they don't trigger. But if you throw something through, they just spew fire and kill you. There were already some dead lying around. This guy with a singed book. This one I loved. This one was my favorite thing. It's just a tree surrounded by these green lights. And the tree is completely peppered with arrows. And the party stood here for at least like 20 minutes discussing what's going on, what they could do with this. And it's nothing. It's just a tree with arrows in it. No point behind it whatsoever, nothing. But the party took a really long time trying to work this out, which I like. I like to put these things in where the party just kind of entertains themselves. Then back here is like a fishing hole where the kobolds get their food. And that was another battle area basically. Then more hidden traps here, or fake traps. And down here, this big area where the kobolds had, over a lava pit, basically built this effigy of a dragon to whom they are praying with a fantastic book and some stuff and items. So this was another battle area, really. Then down here, some dart traps shooting across, which they figured out. Over here, we have the lavatory. Again, my maps generally have those. And down here, another trap, which I think they triggered this one. It's just a ring of fire that kind of explode if you walk into this magic circle. And back here with the lava pit, this is where the kobolds lived. Then here's the hatchery. Gotta have the hatchery with some lava pots to keep them all warm and nice. They're all tucked in. Then back here is the workshop area, because kobolds are very industrious creatures. And they're just kind of building and working here. The party never did see this. The party never saw this. They talked to a kobold here that kind of paid them off to leave. Because they almost completely destroyed the entire clan already by this point. By killing everyone they have found throughout this area. So that was my first dungeon that I built. I think I did a pretty decent job. The good thing about these maps is you can always kind of recycle them in different campaigns again with players that haven't seen it. Alright. Let me see if there's anything else interesting from that campaign I would like to show. Where I feel like that would be really cool. Or a cool set piece. I mean, this one here was pretty cool as well, I think. So up in the mountains, they came upon this weird little island in a frozen lake, which had two opposing temples. One that was completely intact and surrounded by lush green and verdant growth. And on the other side, this broken apart temple with dead trees and dead shrubs and everything. And basically, this here is a temple to the goddess of life. And this here is a temple to the god of death. And they are opposed to each other, but, and that is what the party also kind of learned, they actually married the god of death and the god of life. And they had to fight a bunch here. Figure out a few riddles to get deeper into this temple. Which led them down to this dungeon. Which I kept up with a little colored floor theming. I have a few of those. I don't know, I kind of like it because it's a little bit like a hospital where you're being guided by colored stuff on the ground. So in here they found some curious things as well. These beds over here with one corpse mummified with moss growing on the bed. And they figured out, okay, there's two people who lived here at some point. And they kind of got at odds with each other, but they shouldn't have. Then there was this little riddle area. Each door only opened if you answered the riddle. And I set these up. And one person in the party figured out all these riddles in like 5 minutes or something. Like really, really quickly. And that was very disheartening. Because I figured they get a good 10-15 minutes easy. Oh, good evening, Emuinus. Emuinus. I'm still not entirely sure how to pronounce the name. So nice you made it. How are you doing tonight? You doing good? Also, have you met Rocco? My pet. My pet stone golem. I want to switch the... Hi, Rocco. Be careful now. Talking to Rocco can launch an avalanche of Rocco dedicated stuff. Let's get a different playlist going here. This one. How do I pronounce your username? I mean, I could just say emo. Is it Emoinus? Emoinus? How do I pronounce it? Help me. So the party really flew through those riddles here. Which was a bit of a shame, but okay. I can deal with it. I can deal with it. Later for that party, I learned and made the riddles just much harder. Basically. Tried to really get that going. Then they went through here and they came into this kind of natural cave area with a little wooden bridge over to this area where there's some life going on here and some mushroom growth and some dead people and things. And on this altar there was like a crystal formation with something inside. They didn't quite know what it was. It was like a heart inside the crystal. One of the party had some visions about it, so they knew that they needed to do something with it. Then they went down here, tried to see what's there. There was some acid lake, and then this real fetid, stagnant pool of rotten water and just death, basically. And out of it came a big creature that they had to fight. And one of their party lost an arm to it as well. That wasn't really bad. That wasn't really good. But in the end, they figured out the riddle of this whole cave. And they put the things together. And they released a dragon that was encased here and hidden and kind of banished to never come back again. Which later they learned was a very big mistake. But, you know, how could they have known that before then? Also, there was a sword in the lake here that one of them had thrown in there after he killed his brother with it. And that sword kind of became attached to the person who lost their arm because it was pretty much aligned with the god there. The first pronunciation is fine, honestly. When I choose my nickname, I never thought about the English pronunciation because I'm a native Spanish speaker. Ah. Now I wonder how you would pronounce this in Spanish. I don't speak any Spanish. I speak what I have learned from American TV shows. So I can say, ¿Cómo está? Me llamo Imperor. And de nada. That's the extent of my Spanish. Okay, let me try. En buenos. En buenos. Huh? Huh? Does that work? Do I see? See? En buenos. All right, I'll try and remember that. I'll try and remember that. Next time I stumble over your name. Perfecto. Lovely. Next time I stumble over your name, just remind me Spanish. And then I'll go through the exact same thing to get my mind into how I would even pronounce anything in Spanish. Or would try to. And then I would go with en buenos. It makes a lot more sense pronouncing it like that. But to be fair, a lot of people stumble over my nickname as well. Like when I do a raid, then very often they read it as Emperor the Fist because they can't see the R in the name. It's kind of odd. It's funny. Oh, is it perfecto? Like, can you hear the C in there, or is it perfecto? Perfecto. No hablas. I think it's no hablas español. Or is it no hablo español? ¿Hablas inglés? I know how to ask that. I could get through in Spain. No problem. Un cerveza, por favor. That's all you gotta know. Although I don't drink beer, so that doesn't really help me. Alright, let's see. You can hear the C. Without the C, it's like an Italian word. Perfetto. Perfecto. Wait. Perfecto. 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 I think I need to roll the R more. Anyway, add Spanish. En buenos. En buenos. I like it. I like it. I like it. Very cool. Alright. What other maps? I think this is a map. I didn't know you play D&D. Oh yeah. No. I mean, we had a few streams before that were D&D related where we built maps, or we started building maps anyway. Actually, I will show off one map that I started building on stream, but I didn't finish on stream. I've been playing, if you care. Like, I'm not going to give you the whole backstory if you don't care, but I've been playing TTRPGs since I was a teenager. Back then, it was the German one. I'm going to send the stream link to my Pathfinder DM. Alright. Sure. I can give them a shout out if you want. I have no gripes with that. You have been with us long enough. You earn a little goodie. You earn a little appreciation. So give us their name. I'm going to do a shout out. So I can follow straight from here. I don't even have to go there. If they're streaming on Twitch, that is. Then we only need the username. And then you go tell them that you told me to give them the shout out. Do you play in Spanish on stream? Or is it English? Yeah, he doesn't need to be streaming. I can shout out someone who's offline. That's fine. They'll see it when they come back online. Probably. And we can follow still. It's not a raid, it's just a shout out. Anyway. So when I was a teenager, I played, I don't even know what it's called in English. I think it's The Dark Eye. It's a German one. It's nearly equally as old as D&D. But it is an offshoot of it, I think. And I played Star Wars for a while. I don't know what Showdown is. Shout out. It's a command I can do. You give me the username of the Twitch streamer. I do a shout out. And then their link will appear in chat. And we can follow from here. Show them some love. That's what a shout out is. Shout out me. There you go. Be sure to follow Rat. A loyal Patreon. Well, not a Patreon. You don't pay us. But loyal viewer. Very good lad. I'm assuming. If I'm assuming wrong. We play a homebrew campaign with some friends. That was great. My campaigns at the moment are all also homebrew. Everything I'm talking about tonight is homebrew. We are using D&D 5e though, while playing. But the maps, they don't care. You can play these any way. I do have some of my maps on the Ko-Fi for free as well. I'm just hosting it there because they're pretty big and you know, it's kind of free for me to host them there like that. So if you want to check those out, I don't think he has a Twitch channel. All right, okay. Where's he streaming then? How long have you been playing Pathfinder? Like a year? Having a good time? I mean, if you're still playing it after a year, I would think you do. Let's see. Let me find the map that I started on stream but never finished on stream. Why did I just get welcome to the chat room? We play in a Discord server every Wednesday. Alright. Wednesday is a good day. It's my D&D day. One of my D&D days as well. Okay, so let me show you. This is from a different campaign now. And a little bit more recent. And you can see, I think, the difference in the map making skill a little bit. Still not perfect, obviously, but it's much better. So I started this map on stream, but I never finished it. It's just a dock area in a desert city. And I think the most time I spent was building this part of the ship because it's completely from scratch. Like, this is not a pre-made asset or anything. I built this. The only pre-made asset of this ship is this sail here. The rest are just kind of cobbled together, kind of. My monk almost died in the first session. Well, almost ain't dead, so that's pretty good. So we got a little bit of a port front here with some underwater stuff going on. Some trade stuff. This is on the tarps, basically. This is what these little pillars are for, to hold up the tarps. And this is where the harbor master sits with his cronies who are taking in the taxes and making sure everything is in ship shape. And up here we just have some big warehouses and a dirty road. And this was a fun session as well, because the party, their only goal was to come from this end to this end. That's all they had to do. But they were carrying a lot of gold, like 50,000 gold or something, 45,000 gold or something. That's what they had to get over there. And they just entered the city, which was in lockdown, basically. So everywhere were soldiers and people standing around. No one was necessarily looking for them specifically. But they didn't know that. They were warned that someone was looking for them, but it was really only one in the party, but they didn't know that. And they were told to not resist if they were found. So they had put on disguises and they were trying to get from A to B. And somewhere around here, I think, they ran into someone and their bag got cut open and they started losing like hundreds of gold right here, and people just started coming at them.
Rookie second.
It was very fun.
The Emperor shall do 10x squats.
Okay, you know what? I think Rocco can also take some workout. So I'm gonna take Rocco on the workout, on the 10 squats. Thank you so much, Rookie, for looking out for my health. Let me scootle over to the side real quick. And here we got Rocco right there with me. So let me hold him like that. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There we go. Let's put Rocco back on his little bed. Good lad. Good lad. Yeah, so it was a pretty good session, I think. I still messed up with the barrel shadows a little bit. But overall, I think I did a pretty good job with that map.
R4T_123 redeem the Emperor shall show us the royal pet Rocco.
Do the squats with Rocco. I did. I held him. I had him in the palm of my head. Rocco is reading chat. Still a little bit confused about what's going on. He'll get used to it. Everyone does eventually. Rocco, I did some fan art. Oh, really? Rocco can't believe it, I think. Is absolutely impressed. Check the Discord. Alright, let me go check for Rocco fan art. I'll check the Discord. That is very, very good. That is very good indeed. That is him. Wait, I have an idea on how to show this. I have an idea on how to show this. I mean, we're looking at images right now. I can do just. So this is the Rocco fan art from Rat. I mean, I can see the resemblance. It's very clear. Well done. Well done. I think Rocco is also extremely happy with this. Might I also say that beside the very amazing emojis and stickers that Zebra Feather did, this is the first official piece of fan art that this Twitch channel and YouTube channel has ever received. Rat, you are a trailblazer. Well done. Well done, Rat. Oh god, I can't close the image on Discord anymore. I mean, why would I, right? Why would I want to close this? Okay, I want to show you something else. A botched map. A really botched map. This is when I figured out shadows are a thing. So the way I deal with learning things is I overdo the thing I learned. So this is when I figured out shadows. This is so bad. Like, overall, the map isn't a bad idea. And it makes a lot of sense. I still need to touch this up, but basically you got this little frost island in the desert here with a tower. And I was like, the tower does the shadow toward this way because the sun is coming from there. I haven't put this in any campaign. Like, no one has seen this. This is a Twitch exclusive. I just wanted to show it because it's idea good, execution absolute garbage. Like, what is this? Good, keep it that way. Come on now. It's not that bad, is it? No, it's really horrible. Like, it's funny. Every time I look at my maps and everything, like, this one sticks out so hard. Even on the thumbnail. It's just, it's so in my face. It's really quite embarrassing, honestly. I mean, I do some maps that are just more functional than anything, where I don't necessarily want it to look super good or anything. So I don't put in super amounts of time. But generally, at least I try. I try a little bit more. Or I tried a lot here. I didn't realize how bad it looked. Let me find a palette cleanser, something that looks a little bit better. Here, this safe house. Basically. Got a few palm trees. With a lavatory. You tried so hard, got so far. But in the end, it didn't even matter. It's true. Trying to find things that I can show you from this campaign that the players have not yet seen or are supposed to be seeing anytime soon. So I don't give this away. Though this map, I think, looks a little bit better in the dark. Which I could also say about myself. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably... I like mood lighting. So this here is kind of nice as well. Let me see. Let me see. What do I have here? Oh yeah. Let's just go for a functional map. Like, this is literally just a setup. So this is simple. Super simple map. Nothing going on here. It's not impressive in any way, shape, or form. But it's very functional. You got some heights, some elevation around here. And this is basically in a Wizard Academy type thing. What I use to make the map? I use the tool called Dungeon Draft in combination with Forgotten Adventures assets. The Dungeon Draft thing, this is a cool thing about Dungeon Draft for me. It's a one-time purchase through Humble Bundle. So it's like it's a trusted merchant where you get it. And it has a lot of support for various systems. And it has a lot of assets that are being created for it. And the Forgotten Adventures one. Now here's my tip. If you want to get started on this. And this is a mean tip kinda, but that's how it works. You go to the Forgotten Adventures Patreon. You sign up for 1 month. Download everything and cancel again. That's basically how you do it. You get access to everything. You will download a lot. But yeah. I'm subscribed continually to them because I really think there's nothing quite like it. Nothing quite like what they do. The only thing you have to watch out for is Dungeon Draft takes forever to load depending on how many assets are in there. So you can pirate this. Nah, it's not directly pirating. It's just a weird quirk of how Patreon works. You know? Like, arguably, someone who joins late in the life cycle of a Patreon creator gets access to everything that they have done until then, because Patreon doesn't give you any sort of limits. Like, you have to be a member for this and this many months until you get access to everything, right? This isn't a function in Patreon. So if you are short on cash, if you are a student, if you are a pupil in school still or something, then I would understand if you did that. If you have disposable income, it's not a lot of money to put on Forgotten Adventures Patreon. Just consider that. Consider that. I'm definitely doing it because I think they do some absolutely amazing work. And all my maps are made with their assets, basically. I couldn't be happier about them. They're really, really, really high quality stuff. Without looking too realistic either. Like, it's not going for hyperrealism. It's just the perfect balance between stylized and nerd. There are of course other styles like crosshead something. Crosshead Patreon. They have a different art style. It's more like Studio Ghibli, but I found it really, really difficult to make good looking maps. Like, the maps that they do with it are absolutely incredible. But me trying to emulate that, I have no chance. I have zero chance of building maps with their assets that look as good as what they do, sadly. But yeah, absolutely worth it to check that out. Let's see. What else do I have from this? Oh yeah, that's what this campaign is currently in. This kind of underwater temple. And I'm pretty proud of this one. Noted. Very good. I'm pretty proud of this one because of these broken layers here, these broken tiles where there's just stuff growing out under there. I'm pretty proud of this. I think that looks pretty good. And I'm slowly starting to get a hang on shadows and stuff. It's not looking as shabby anymore. The Rocco gift to the rescue. Like, I'm not overdoing shadows too much. You can see maybe I went a little bit overboard on these two. But this one looks pretty decent for shadows. Same with this statue. I think it looks fine. These harsher shadows are a little bit, like, they're based on Dungeon Draft because of the lighting. I could turn that off, but I can't be bothered. Okay, fine. We're gonna pat him. No. Rocco needs a rest. Rocco needs a rest. Oh yeah, also one of the bigger maps that it looks kind of weird from the outside.
R4T_123 redeem the Emperor shall give Rocco some quiet time.
Okay, Rocco gets a little bit of quiet time now. Thank you, Rat. Rocco appreciates it. Y buenos, don't be mean now. Indeed, Rat. Rocco deserves a little bit of sleep here and there. So this map, looking at it from here, looks a little bit weird because the edges are just kind of cut off. It doesn't look too great on there, but nothing ever happens out there. Basically, everything happens in here. That's why I didn't really spend a lot of time on fixing any on the outside there. Now, this is the Biblia, the library for the Magic Academy. And it's a big map. Like, it doesn't look like it, but it's a really, really big map. Let's go in here. Now you get an idea of how big this is. So this is the entrance area. Come up in here. Then you got the cafeteria where people can sit and eat. Then over here you got like a chill, relax area, talk area. And these tables here, they even have a little bit of a story to them. These tables are basically the old doors from this, from the entrance. So that's what these are. And I made those from scratch too, just taking different assets. Hey, good evening, Radish Boy. Thanks for joining. How are you doing tonight? Glad you're back. Do you have any connection to TTRPG stuff? I'm streaming right now, otherwise I would watch for longer. Oh, you're streaming? That's cool. What you're streaming?
Zerg_Heim redeemed the Emperor shall hydrate.
Thank you, Zergheim. I will go ahead and do just that. So, cheers, chat. If you have a drink yourself, feel free.
R4T_123 redeemed the Emperor shall stretch.
And stretches too. Thank you so much. You're streaming some Minecraft. Nice. In your own server? I'm doing good as well, thank you. Nice of you to drop by. Especially if you're streaming yourself. I hope no one tries to learn from me how to stretch, because I ain't a good stretch teacher. Alright, so here is like the on-campus library shop thing, sorta. With a grumpy dwarven shopkeeper. You can buy all sorts of things. Hats. Alright, have a good day. I might pop in later, but I'm going to get back to my stream. Oh yeah, sure. Have a good one. Enjoy, good luck. I think we're on longer for like an hour or so. But then we're gonna dip out for today as well. So, this is a little shop here. Cafeteria, kitchen, with a buffet. One big classroom. Another big classroom with some magic runes on the floor. Some big bookshelves with some carpeting. This here is the student council chamber, basically, where they come together and do student council things. Over here is the arts and crafts hall, basically, where students can do things, build things. This here is part of the library and a bit of a study area in the front. Then we have these circles here, which are meant for students to stand in if they want to duel each other, because they're kind of protected. Magic can't pass outside of the circles. So basically they are connected to one another. So if a student stands here and one stands there, they can pass magic between the circles, but only directed at each other. It can't go out here, out there, anywhere else but there. Now here, I was starting to experiment a little bit with trees. So instead of putting a full tree that you can't see through or beneath, I just put the shadow and the stump. So this is what is underneath the tree, because I don't have enough layers on the map to kind of, give that impression, basically, because it's all 2D. So they can walk under here, and it's just a little grassy area to chill and relax. Some more study and books, and these are just color-coded to help identify places where students might find books. Then here we have a little art gallery where students display all their stuff. Some storage room back there with a very inconspicuous mummy. And this here is like a little bed. Someone built a little bed for naps. Midday naps. Then, of course, the lavatories. The restrooms. Gotta have those. This is for the men's. This is for the ladies. You can only tell because this has urinals and this doesn't. But it's fine. Then we have these are like teleporter rooms, like elevators, but teleporters, sorta. We've got an information desk. We have another one in the north as well. Some more bookcases, and these staircases which I still find kind of difficult to portray which is up and which is down. So the shadow work here is kind of weird. I think I might, in the future, just go with arrows or something. Just take out the guesswork, you know? Hi, new in chat. Imuenos, send me to stream. Looks fun. Is the map in a homebrew setting in mind? Good evening, Anonyux. Wait, do I have to pronounce your name keeping Spanish in mind as well? This your DM? Oh, that's what you meant. You're sending them the stream link to this stream. Oh, now I get it. Sorry. Okay, let me try and pronounce it Spanish. I don't know. I don't know what an X would be in Spanish. Anonioth? Anonioth? Is that like an eth at the end? I don't know. Anoniox? Anoniox? I don't know. Yeah, anyway. This is a homebrew setting. Yes, it's a adaptation of Strixhaven, basically. Do you see what I see? Rookie second coming in with a gift sub. Ambushing you. Thank you so much, Rookie, for the gift subs, and congratulations to Anoniox with a free subscription, basically. I mean, not free. Rookie paid for it, but it's a gift. So you don't have to suffer through the ads that Twitch randomly gives in here. So yeah, this is a homebrew setting. It's called Catwall Academy. It's part of my larger homebrew world, and it's basically a Strixhaven adaptation. Rookie is rich, gifted by Rocky. Where's Rocco? Rocco had a redemption for a little bit of rest by Rat. So he got a little bit of rest, but we can bring him back. We let him nap. It's true. So Imonioth said that you are DMing a homebrew as well. Would you like to tell us a little bit about it? I'd like to hear it. So these stairs in this academy, if they don't want you to go anywhere, you just feel like you're walking forever. Like, it feels like you're getting closer to somewhere, but only if you look forward. Once you look back, you see that you didn't even get anywhere. You only got like halfway through to the stairs. It's a little bit obviously stolen from Hogwarts with the changing staircases, except that this is like a liminal space fever dream from these airport. Some airports have these flat, not roller coasters. What are they called? The revolving staircases. Dang, why can't I come up with a name? You know what I mean, I hope. So that's that. These stairs only let you go through if they know where you want to go, and if where you want to go makes sense. If you don't know where you want to go, you can't just walk up there and figure it out. Basically, that's what how these work. Just 2 more classrooms, and that's pretty much it. But again, it's a very big map. It is a very, very big map, and it's heavily taken from the actual Strixhaven library map. So all the things that are on here basically are also on the Strixhaven library map. It's funny because I haven't used anything out of Strixhaven except for the extra rules. So none of it even matters if it's in here. It's completely irrelevant. I just took it because building a large map and being creative about it is a little bit more difficult than just building a large map. Just takes a much longer time. Oh yeah. And they all come from this place here, which is like a little bookshop. So you come in here, go down a little bit. You have this big seating area with all these nice cushions all strewn around and books everywhere. You have these high shelves all around. Then in the back here is a little office room. And of course, we got the lavatory. Always gotta have that. If there are people longer for a little while. Then we've got a bit of a storage area there with some rest, lunch break areas, some more storage, a lot of paper, obviously. I mean, it's a bookstore and a printing press room. They have their own presses back there. It's kind of generic, I think. My players are in one big continent for now, with 4 big cities and room for village and the like. I mean, yeah, that needn't be bad, right? And needn't be generic either. Like, what's the story like so far? What's going on? What's your party doing? I'm gonna apply some anti-itch cream because I got bitten by a big mosquito recently and it's flaring up a little bit. But I'm hearing it. I'm listening. Let me just... Generic is better than bad. I mean, the thing about generic is you don't have a generic thing of something that isn't successful, right? There are no generic versions of things that aren't good. So. And sometimes the generic thing is better than the original. Just think of what they're called. Oreos? I like it so far. I mean, that's all that counts. So it's Pathfinder, Imonios said. Have you played D&D or are you only Pathfinder? Also, is it Pathfinder 2e? Last time we were fighting freaking dinosaurs. I mean, that sounds pretty rad to me. Dinosaurs are amazing. I play in D&D with another group and yes, it's 2e. Alright. Would you consider a follow to the channel? Kinda helps. Also, I don't know if Imonioth, if you even know that, but we have a Discord by now. It has a TTRPG channel, so if you guys want to join the Discord as well, you can talk about your campaign. Thank you, Rat, for the link. And thank you, Anoniox, for the follow there. Appreciate it. Welcome. You don't... we don't do all that much TTRPG stuff, but sometimes it comes up, and I would love, you know, that's the thing. Like, if you want more TTRPG stuff, just throw it out there. I don't expect it. I didn't expect it, you know? I ask. You don't have to. But thank you so much if and when you do. Number go up is important. And like half a year ago, I streamed to no one. Now, we consistently get 6 to 10 people in here. Pretty consistently. Even with low interest topics like this. I really should get up around to restarting my local D&D group. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I don't play locally though. All my D&D is virtual tabletop. But they're almost all real life friends that just live far away. And even if they didn't, I'm an introvert. To me, it's very exhausting to do that in person. It's much easier through a VTT. So in here, they have a secret room back here. Like, that's a secret room. It's all hidden and stuff. There's some misprints here. I had forgotten that I even put that there. Cute. I like this. They don't go here all that often, sadly. I might have to do a dream session when I can go there. But I think I did a fairly okay job with that one. So why were you fighting dinosaurs? What's the story there? What happened? Why the dinosaurs? We're almost the same. Most of the group live close enough, but one player is far away. I mean, for mine it's not really possible, but I appreciate it, honestly. Oh, sometimes I do stage maps. Let me show you one stage map. It's not a good map, honestly, but it's a cool staged... a map with stages. Depending on people doing things, the map changes. I don't do many of those because, of course, they're a lot of work and I'm a lazy person. Sometimes. Let me see. Where are my stages here? There it is. Okay, so this is how it started out, basically. So the party came into this. It's like, it's really dark. It's foggy. They can't see anything. And they find their way to the center of this place here, where they kind of sort of see this sort of weird little altar set up. And there are torches in a more or less of a circle around it. And something moves in the mist and comes closer and starts attacking them. And then they figure out, okay, what happens if we light those torches around here? And they do that. Then they see more of the altar and they see, oh, there's a lot of candles here. And then they need to fight, and the fight is not going their way. The creatures from the fog, they can't be hurt, they can't be killed or anything. And then someone, at the very last moment, looks like a summoning circle. Hey. At the very last moment, someone figures it out. They need to light the candles on the altar. And as they do, a beam of light breaks through and pushes away the fog. And the creatures vanish. So that was one of the stage maps I had in a campaign. Very simple. Though I still don't know how I did that with the light here. That looks really cool. Problem is, 3 of the members moved away, which means I have to find new players, and I don't have to post in the local D&D Facebook group because there are a couple of horribly racist people in there that I don't wish to have in my group. Oh no, I'm so sorry. That sucks so hard. Try a virtual tabletop. Bring in your players that you know and trust. Try it. There are many, many good ones out there right now. It's not that much of a jump. And you don't even have to do maps like these. Like, there are super simple other systems to quickly draw up maps. And you can still just draw them by hand, make a picture, and use them. That's perfectly fine. It's like all good. Oh yeah, another map I wanted to show that I'm insanely proud of. Insanely proud of. And it took me forever to make. Forever. There's a lot of map websites like Pinterest, yeah. The other problem is that the people who moved away did so 2 other times. Ah, okay, that sucks. Yeah. Okay, that's a big problem. Okay, let me show you this. Ships! And I made those from scratch. These are also on my Ko-Fi, including without the water, so you could even use them in Spelljammer settings. So the top and the bottom ship are both the same. They're just kind of copies of each other. But I built them from 0. All of this. And this ship as well. Like, I'm very proud of these. These turn out really, really well. They don't have a lower deck or anything. It's just the upper decks. But still. These are built off of actual ships. Actual ship designs. Historical ship designs. Like, I took the blueprints, put them there, and built the map over them. Don't ask me which ships, though. But yeah, these were a lot of work, but this is something I like to look back on. This is something where I like, yep, I did that. I put in the time to make this. Another map I quite liked was this one. It's like a river crossing at night. And all in these thick hedges, there are like little fireflies drifting around. And on this stone, there was someone wounded, and there were creatures trying to get to it, but they didn't want to go into the water. So the party came from up here and started fighting. And then there were more coming out from up here, attacking the party and all that kind of stuff. This is also a pretty decent map, I think. Obviously, if you just go with a lower light setting, all the very glaring issues of a map are less so glaring. Like, look at it in daylight. It's just not quite as impressive, I think. It's okay. But the night version is much cooler, I think. Enjoy the lurk, and thank you for your service, Silent Watcher. This map, I don't think we ever even played this one. No, I think we never got to it. But here's another thing I tried with getting this feeling of forest and canopy. So what I did was basically I took the shadows from trees, and I have some light assets that have the foliage type thing. So you have the full shadows, and then I just threw some of these light effects that look like foliage on there. And I think this looks like a pretty densely populated and grown tree forest. I mean, this thing here is maybe a little bit too bright, but this could literally be a cut down tree stump, whereas all these others here are actual still trees. It would make more sense looking at it on the map, because then you would have the light barriers, so the party would see this as a solid block and couldn't see through it, and these would be literal tree stumps, so you could see, okay, this was a tree before. Something that I hadn't really figured out then, I think I have a better grasp on it now, is with these tree stump assets, you have this thick black border, and it just doesn't look like it's part of the ground. It looks like it's sitting atop of it, which is a little bit sad. But there's ways of dealing with it, and I think I've slowly figured it out. Like here I tried to just hide it, just throw some bushes that grow right on the foot of the tree. But yeah, that wasn't too great. I'm also not very good with foam on water. Like this looks okay. It's possible. But the rest of the water doesn't look like it's flowing at all, and I don't know how to do it properly. It just doesn't work. But the forest part, I think I got pretty down. It's nice. You got some stones and stuff, some broken branches lying around, some undergrowth happening. I never used this in a campaign, I think. I should. It's a decent map. And it's done. And it has a night version, which looks a little bit odd now that I look at it, but it's still okay. It's just a full moon, maybe. Then it works. Alright. Oh, yeah. I also made a beach, because in this campaign they got stranded on a beach. Now, this looks a little bit like this is too dark of a shadow here under these waves. So the waves look like they're crashing in a little bit harder than they should. My idea was making the sand look a little bit wet, but instead it just kind of looks like there's a big wave coming in, but that's not really what it's supposed to be like. But we got a lot of shipwreck stuff here under the water, even some sharks floating around, and lots of debris here. Long story short, one of the players is wanted by the police, so before anything happens, they go out of the city. Another player that knows another place from some time ago suggests to go there. It's Union Logreth. I'm trying in Spanish. I don't know how to pronounce Spanish. Union Logreth is like the UN, and the way they come across with some type of magical event. So they fall to a place where there's dinosaurs. Okay, let me try and get that together. So one of them is wanted by the police. It took me some time to write up. I can't keep up. No worries. So before anything happens, they got out of the city. Another player that knows another place from some time ago suggests to go there. It's Union Logreth. Just like the end. And in the way... Okay. So they're trying to get out of one city because they're being followed by police there. For one player, they want to go to a different place, and on the way to that place, they fall into a place where there's dinosaurs. There's dinosaurs in this campaign as well that I'm showing off. Well, the campaign has ended since, but like my idea is What I wanted with this campaign was like these old adventure movies where you have just big creatures running around, you know? So they had to deal with some dinosaurs as well. Where is it? There's another forest clearing. This one. This is where they fought the dinosaurs. It's just a forest path again, with some trees. A little bit of elevation here to make the combat situation more interesting if it so happens. Honestly, I've made a bunch of maps, really. And some that were never even seen in the campaign. Like this one here. Another forest pathway. They didn't see that either. You have a little egress here to some swampy pond. Then you can go around here. Get up through here. There's a little pathway up. And you can stand up here and look down. And this is kind of sheltered with a stony barrier. There's just a little bit more underbrush. And this one was supposed to be a staged map as well. Because if they came here, they were supposed... Like, this place, where this is called the Wilds. It's a continent which is beholden or owned by a singular god who is called the Hunter. I tried to be easy with my gods. Like, the gods in my homebrew, they are called the Hunter, the Noble, stuff like that. So you don't have to remember Akraxias or Thremonius, you know, something like that. It's a little bit hard to remember. So instead it's like the Hunter, the Noble, stuff like this. And the Hunter has cursed this continent to a point where everything that dies becomes a harder quarry because he's displeased with the thing that dies. It needs to be a more difficult and more dangerous thing. So their souls aren't allowed to leave. They die and they become a spirit that haunts whatever killed it. To see if, blessed by the Hunter, the thing that died is now stronger than the thing that killed it. Because it wants to, the Hunter wants to find the biggest, baddest hunting creature ever. And so they would have encountered all the things that they had killed there. How do the things at the bottom of the food chain come into being? Yeah, okay, so let me back up real quick. The continent, this specific continent, is run by the Hunter. Because he kind of took it and the other gods were like, eh. But the world itself wasn't even made by the gods. This world was made long before the gods even showed up. The gods just kind of found it. Because demons and devils found it. And they were like, hey, this looks cool. Let's take it. And the gods were like, nah, this looks cool. We want it. You don't get it. So they had a bunch of fighting over that. So the gods didn't make the things that are here. Some of the things they made, yes, but not all of it. And the regular creatures, it doesn't really matter. Like, only this specific continent is weird in that way. So everything evolved regular, basically. So who made the world if it wasn't the gods and demons? Well, it's more of a cosmic existence like ours. Like, things just come into being out of the many wild energies, the astral energies, the energies of life and death and all these things flowing through things, which are also where the gods are coming from. Like, the gods are just basically very concentrated creatures made predominantly from a single element in the universe that makes everything up. Right? The gods are axiomatic. Pretty much. They are surely just there and that is to be accepted. Yes. The gods are very real. Absolutely. So, had they ever gone here and encountered this, then their fight against the spirit creatures of all the things that they had killed so far, and not properly buried. There's a way to prevent this, but they didn't know that. And once they knew that, they only did it for their friends. They didn't think to do it for their enemies. So this would have changed to this. Basically. So it's still the exact same layout. Let me drink something. But sorry, excuse me. But I went to like a little bit of a Stranger Things other side type thing. Like everything is a little bit dead, a little bit creepy. And once they had defeated their spirit enemies, they might have, you know, returned. Sounds very interesting. They've written down somewhere. Well, yes, I use Obsidian, which is a free... I won't say open source because it's not... It's kind of open source, but not really. It's a free if you don't want to use the sync system, which I don't use. Note-keeping app. Very similar to OneNote or others like that. So that's where I keep my notes. It's digital. But I'm not doing a lot of world building. Like I'm not doing world building for things that the players don't actually encounter in the campaigns. But I had up to recently I had 3 campaigns all in the same world, just in different places. Oh, very cool. Then you know all the powerful things Obsidian can do. Took me a while to figure out how to use it best, but now it's yeah, it's fairly indispensable, honestly. Though I'm not using it to its fullest extent and haven't for a while, but that's a topic for another matter. Like I'm not linking as diligently as I should. So I had these 3 campaigns. It's only 2 campaigns at the moment, all in the same world, all DM'd by me. So the world building kind of happens around the parties, and it helps me obviously that they all look at the same history. So when I tell party 1, okay, this is what happened when the demons and the gods fought, it's always the same information for whatever party I have. And whatever characters I encounter. So eventually kind of it starts growing on my mind, and it becomes more of a known thing. I can't even recount my whole pantheon because the players haven't interacted with all of them yet, or even really talked about many of them. So I would have to look up my own pantheon. But it's fine. I know it's the pantheon of the 10. There's 10 gods. I know that much. I can recount most of them, I think, but it doesn't matter if I can. Is this your first homebrew campaign that you're running? Oh, here's another thing that I built. Yeah, cool. How did you get into it? It was just like friends thinking like, hey, let's play, and someone had to be the DM, and you were like, yeah, let me try that. So this here is called the Lair of the Lady of the Silk, which is a elven lady that the party were trying to contact, and it's just in this jungle area. And I made a big mistake when I copied the player tokens from one map to the other when they arrived here, because I didn't check the position, and I just copied them over and pasted them in here, and one of the players ended up in this very secret chamber where like 3 big ass spiders were in there. The player didn't tell anyone else what they saw, luckily, but like I didn't even intend for anything to happen from this necessarily. But if they had become antagonistic to these people, then eventually this might have become something. For now, I just kind of built it because I thought it would be a cool thing to have. So they were out here in this gazebo thing. Teleportation, not a perfect system. Absolutely, absolutely. For the Magic Academy campaign, I had the players sign a waiver that the Academy put out beforehand, which outlined basically that you agree to the fact that potentially during your studies you might die. If you die, the staff will try everything to revive you. If they cannot, then your body parts, your mind, whatever energies are left in you might be used for experimentation, including transplants into other creatures or inanimate objects like teapots, out of the sheer curiosity and whatnot. And it's so funny to me because they keep running into situations that are entirely unsafe. And one of my players is a teacher in real life. And the absolute horror on their face every single time something happens where they're like, why is no one keeping these students safe? I mean, it's a university. It's not a school so much. So they're not children. But it's so fun. And I kind of feel bad about it as well. But basically, that's just how that campaign goes a lot. And even though they signed the waiver, they feel like they're entitled to some safety. I don't know how they get to that. So we have like a big talk council type chamber. Maybe that's where they eat too. With a little tree in the center of the room. I sense a perverse incentive. If the student dies, the university gets more research materials. Listen, if you want to read it like that, I might have a job for you in the pharma industry. All right, here we have a little bit of a, just like a chamber with food stores. Then a living room. I think elves have living rooms too, with the harp and some reading nook and cranny. And here's just two living quarters. And behind this vault door is this layer of silk. Because all these are basically shape-shifting druids that go into big spiders. As their thing. The campaign ended before there could be a conclusion to all this. Due to scheduling issues and me being exhausted at some point. So I didn't really pick it back up again. But it was decent enough. It was decent enough. Let me see. Do I have anything else interesting? Oh yeah, this is another map they never got to see. Here I experimented a little bit with like depth. I played before with another group, so I proposed to play, and naturally I was a DM. I had like 10 players. My approach was to make everything from scratch and ask my players what they wanted to see and build things in the world from their backstory. Good evening, the G-Man. Welcome back. The Rise and Shine, Mr. First. And thanks to the person who gifted me a sub. I don't even pop up much. Well, that's rookie second for you. Anyone who follows, insta-sub. That's how it goes. But your follow and popping up from time to time is all good and well enough, honestly. It helps. It truly does. Like, someone coming in here, seeing this stream for the first time, they look at stuff like the followers. And if they're not the first, but maybe, oh, there's already 100 and something people, that's pretty important. It lasted a couple of sessions before it was too much. Yeah, you definitely overloaded yourself on that idea. Following what the players find interesting to do and then build that and do that. Oh boy. I mean, that's something I struggle with as well as a DM. Keeping the campaign player-centric. It's not about the story that's unfolding around them. It's about how their characters relate to the stories and how their backgrounds, which they put mind and effort into, relates to all of that's happening, yeah? The G-Man, do you play TTRPGs or just here because? Is this at all interesting to you? Plus, I think time zone wise we might be far away because I'm up for another, let's say, 15 minutes or so. Like, you're catching the last 20 minutes of tonight's stream. So yeah, here I started experimenting a little bit with depth. I didn't really go further. So what I did is just basically load this into Photoshop and then try and blur the stuff that's below. But I don't know if this was enough of an effect to really be sensible. As I said, I never got to use this map in a campaign yet. But yeah. Rat coming in with the Rocco bounce. Let's show him. Let's show him real quick. Oh, that was too quick. Let's show him for a second longer. There he is. See? He's still chilling. Having a good time. On his Christmas socks. I mean, I realize why I'm so drawn to Rocco as a pet, because all my maps have rocks and stones all the time. Yeah, but the idea was basically that the party would fight here, and then they could try and throw someone down there, or someone could try and throw them down there, and then they would be dead. That's what I was trying to do here with the blurring and everything. I don't know, what do you think? Is that effect at all conveying depth? Or is it just kind of weird? I feel like it works here, but not so much here for some reason. What do you find people think? I don't know. The main focus wasn't really on that, but just have a little bit of a bridge situation. I don't even know why I made this so long. Most of it would have happened here. I don't even need all this up there and down there. But you could try and go around. That's probably the option there. You can't go around here much, but you know. I think that I'm not likely to do nearly as much prep for sessions as you do if I were to start DMing. I didn't think I would either. And I have come down to trying to build maps predominantly where I know that they're gonna go multiple times. And just very simple random encounter maps that are very, very simple and not as elaborate as this. Like if you're selling maps, makes sense to make them elaborate, to really put in time and effort. But for a random nature encounter, good golly, some of these maps can really take a lot of time. But then again, it's also a practice thing. Maybe it's because the contrast in colors. Because it's lacking contrast? That might actually be a thing. Maybe it should also be darker down there. Good point. Good point. So once you have done a bunch of these, they become easier to do. As with most things, like you get quicker at it. Let me show you something that was pretty recent. That also hasn't come up in a campaign yet, and might even not. Like I don't think they're gonna go there. Just in passing, they said they might want to go there, and I thought, oh, that's a cool idea. I'll make that. And I don't think we're ever even going to see it in the campaign. So this here is in that desert city. It's a temple to the noble. The god of all that is, you know, of a good bloodline. Of good breeding. So you come in here, and there's two lines. This is the out. This is where you go out. This is where you go in. And you go in through here. Walk along here. Stay in line. And then you can give your donation here. And this is the throne of the noble. It's always empty because this is reserved for the noble. And the noble alone. No one sits there. The priests stand left and right of this. And they take your donations. And then you can do like a little pump here. And you get some oil. And that oil you can put on yourselves, and that will help sanctify you a little bit. And all these statues here are solid gold all around. And you got this little back room with some candles lying around, and this is where you get like marriage counseling or something. And yeah, players never gonna see this, but it didn't take me too long to make this. I think this map is like maybe 2 hours or something. So yeah. And it's not wasted either. I can always throw this in a different campaign with some idea, or just put it up on my Ko-Fi. Maybe someone wants it and picks it up. I also make maps in Dungeon Draft. Recently I searched for assets and the like. It is really about practice and time. Absolutely. What assets do you like to use? Like who's your main supplier? You also someone for Forgotten Adventures, or are you maybe more of a crosshead person? My maps are really simple, to be honest. Yeah. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. As I said, like let me show you some simple encounter maps from the desert. Like, it couldn't be simpler. Like this. There's not much to it. There's some ruins lying around here on the side. There's some boulders, some rocks. A little road. That's it. Again, this is one of the maps where I didn't know what to do with shadows yet. So this is a pretty old one, I think. Or I didn't bother, I don't know. Let me show you a different one. Also fairly simple. But here okay, this one is simple, but I took a little bit more effort in working with shadows. So in Dungeon Draft you can... Ooh, I don't really remember. I don't know free ones. I haven't made one in some time. Alright. That's no problem. So here you can make different layers in Dungeon Draft as well. So I tried to put like the trees and stuff on a different layer and then make shadows and just kind of offset them in Photoshop. So you can do that. So the shadows look a little bit more realistic, so to speak, and it's just not this blobby shadow like here. This is just a blobby shadow, but it has a shape that kind of follows this. Like here and here. Like, you can really spend a lot of time on these if you want to, but you really, really don't have to. It doesn't change all that much. But it's fun to do. Like, it's a thing that you can easily do while listening to a podcast or watching YouTube or listening to an audiobook or something like that. So I really like this map. It's like, this is the main route, this is the main route, but sometimes someone goes around here for no reason. I wonder if maps would turn out well if I were to 3D model some things and then render it from a top-down view. There are actually tools that do that. Like, there's something called on Steam you can get, it's called Dungeon Alchemist. That kind of sort of does that. I can show you a map out of Dungeon Alchemist because I used some... Because I like to experiment. I want to see if I can't make things more efficient. I also used some battle maps from AI. Because for the dream session specifically, like, it looks really weird. But for a dream session where everything is in a dream, that doesn't matter. That's perfectly fine. You know? Okay, let me find one that I made with Dungeon Alchemist. That we actually used. This one here. So this is a Dungeon Alchemist map. And you can see that this is basically a 3D thing, but from the top down. You can, in Dungeon Alchemist itself, you can turn the camera, you can use whatever you want. But this is all 3D. And you can just kind of draw these rooms, and it's AI powered. Not really, but, you know, sorta. Where it decides what things are in there, and then you can put your own assets, place them around. Like, it's serviceable. But honestly, it's not that much quicker. Looking at all those maps are making me want to do more maps. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. I can relate. Looking at my own maps makes me want to do more maps. Like, we spent a lot of time on this one. I got a good value out of this particular map. It was quick to do. It's an okay software. It has its uses. I wouldn't use it for everything, but I think you could use it for everything. I just like my handcrafted ones a little bit more because I have more control over how things look and how they are. But really, like, this is good. This is pretty damn good. And it's getting better as well, so this is definitely something you could look into. It's not that expensive either, I believe. Like 25 to 35, it sometimes goes on sale. So let me show you one that I made with AI. And we actually used in a dream session. Let me see. Yeah, we used this one. So this was just an astral dream. Now, if you don't know how to spot AI, let me tell you.
Rookie second redeem the Emperor shall do 10x squats.
Okay, I'm gonna do 10 squats and then I'm gonna tell you how to spot AI. Really easy. Like, there's a simple, easy trick how you can spot AI made stuff almost instantly. I'll show you in a second. All right, so 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 7, 28, 29, 30. Thank you, Rookie. Look for the fingers. The circles aren't concentric. Circles are exactly what you need to look at. Anything round is always messed up. Like buttons on a shirt or something, that usually goes really, really wonky. Like you can see. Also, try and think logically. Like, look at this thing. If you were an artist who painted this little river, why the hell would you do the overflow over here and not there? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. Even if you wanted to go for the fantastic argument, you know? The other thing is all these little details here. An artist making details like these wouldn't make them so random. Because actually when you do this, it's much more effort to do it this randomly than giving them actual shapes. Some things just look AI. Yeah, but there's a reason for it, and I'm trying to give you a bit of a insight on how you spot them very easy and very quickly. So basically just look for anything that has any detail. And if detail is just real weird line stuff, then that's 95% chance it's AI. Also things that are just kind of weirdly overlapping and not really meshing well together. If someone drew this, why would they do it like that? Like, you're already putting in the effort. You already clearly have some sort of skill. Why are you doing it? Why are you suddenly just deciding to... No, this tree here is just empty. All the other trees have a little bit of texture. Like this bit, no. I'm just not going to bother. Like, why? You know? AI struggles at doing things beyond the very local. I try not to make maps for everything so the players don't get accustomed. I don't always have the time and they tend to be literal with the maps, don't ask questions and play only what they see. That's a very, very good point. It's a very good point. We should do an AI or not challenge. I mean, yeah. If like, who would be the arbiter? Because if it's me trying to figure out what is AI and what isn't, then if I know beforehand, then it is not really fun, right? But the thing is, like, if you're pressed for time, this will work. If you're pressed for time and you don't really care about the quality, as I said, with the dream sessions, where it's something, usually on the same day, someone says, okay, I can't make it today, and we're in a crucial point, we need that player, we can't just continue, I need to do a dream session, so at least the people who can show up can play. So I have like maybe an hour between work and D&D to get something going. So I have to think about the plot, I have to think about what's going on, I have to think about everything. So generating a map for that quickly helps. And since it's kind of weird and uncanny and just not right, fits perfectly with the whole dream scenario. I think for that it's fine. Of course, we're not going to go into the ethics of the training data on this shit, because that's garbage. That's completely insane that, you know, typical USA tech bros go about anything. They just do illegal shit. Another way is the patterns, they don't make sense. They don't have symmetry most of the time. Exactly. So for that, it's fine. But don't try to sell this shit or anything. That's completely insane. Where to put the Rocco to buff him? Where to put the Rocco to buff him? I don't know. Rocco is always buff. No one needs to buff him. So this is, you know, this isn't okay. This is okay for singular sessions here and there. But what you said, Anoniox, I think is very important. Sometimes just don't even have a map. The last map I wanted to show for tonight, we have a few more minutes left. The last map I wanted to show you tonight is another one I'm pretty proud of. Let me find it. And that is the overworld map for the campaign that is kind of in the desert, where we've seen a bunch. Why can't I navigate my own stuff right now? What the hell? There it is. Is that the full one? No, that's not the full one. That's the split one. That's the full one. So this here is a map for my desert campaign. Rocco is always rock hard, eh? For sure. So this one I think I'm gonna put up on Ko-Fi at some point as well for other people to use because I really like it. I think I did a good job on this one. So basically, each of these squares is 1 day of travel by road. So if you go off-road, it's gonna take you longer. It's a fairly simple, not too large map, really. You have this long river flowing here, which is the Zakalu. And it originates up here, goes down. It has a few arms feeding into it from up there. Next to the city of Takabalaz and Ogral. And there are some pathways here combining them. And along the river, there are some palm trees and growth and everything. And the main city here is Elidol, with a few satellite cities all downstream. Down here goes into some jungle area. You have another city on the side there. There's Karl's Plateau, the Hasef Drylands. And I put a few interesting little things. Quick question. What does Palada mean? Does it just mean desert? No, it's basically a place name, like Sahara. Unless Sahara means desert, which it very well might be. No, it doesn't mean anything. It's a name, something. I would have to come. This would be where the world building kicks in during a session. Like if someone of my players asked why is it called Palada Desert, then I would have to come up with it. Sahara does indeed mean desert. I knew it. I knew it. The second I said it, I remembered it. Damn. No, it's not that. I would come up with something on the spot if my party asked, but we have been streaming for like 3 hours now, so my brain isn't really working, so I'm not going to attempt it and come up with something bad. Then we have the ruins of Seth up here, which is cut off like an old city. You can see some bits and pieces of how it used to be connected somehow. That might be interesting. You have Zalos Dread over here. I don't know what that is, but it sounds intriguing. You have Rokmur and Kash up there. The Lo Ular Ridge. I don't know. I like it. I think it's mainly the contrast between the turquoise water and the very deserty looking stuff and everything. So this was made with Wonder Draft, which is the overworld map making tool from the same guy who's making Dungeon Draft. And this is in East Kalandi, but yeah, I like this. This is one of my favorite maps I made. Actually, one I've printed out, hanging up on my whiteboard next to me. Just looks pretty good. I even have some open spaces where nothing exists, which I often struggle with. Like, I tend to just fill up every space that I can see with stuff, but that makes no sense. That's not how things are. Not everything is completely full up. To be honest, like, it's probably too densely populated, but these cities are pretty small. So, I think it's okay. It's fine. Basically, anywhere there's water, there's people living there. So, I also like to do this. In real life, we have something like an upper and a lower something, you know? So, I like to come up with things that are similar. So, you have a Sur Hasef and a Ba Hasef. Maybe that means upper, that means lower. Maybe. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But if you come up with these things, then just kind of stick to it and try and make it consistent. Yeah. And I think that's that for tonight. I hope you had a decent time. Thank you all so much for joining. And I'm very glad that Rocco got that much love. I didn't expect it, honestly. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. By the absolute Rocco love that came from here. Let me bring him up real quick before we drop out of it. I need to talk to Meat Sauce so I don't alienate him too much by this, but I think Rocco is a great idea and a great addition to the stream. It's something we can all bond over. It's our thing. He's ours. He's our good boy. And it's a little bit silly. And I really like it. I was just about to leave. Nice stream. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining and for the follow. Appreciate it. I hope your campaign continues. As I said, if you like, you can join our Discord as well. Keep telling us about it. The TTRPG end is woefully quiet, sadly, because not a lot of people are interested in it. But I go kind of by interest. So the more people interested in these things join and ask for it, the more we're going to go do that. Thank you, Rat, again for the link. And with that, I think we're going to go dip out tonight. We're not going to go do a raid. We'll just leave it where it is. So thank you all so much for your time, for your attention and your patience. And I hope you got some inspiration for your own stuff. And I'll see you around. The next stream is going to be Thursday. I haven't decided what it's going to be yet. But it's going to be something. Maybe it's gonna be a Rocco stream, so Meat Sauce never talks to me again. Which I don't want to. Alright, have a good one. Bye-bye. See you around.